Sunday in Mexico City, Shane van Gisbergen was practically unstoppable, winning by over 17 seconds. It turned out to be the largest margin of victory in a cup race since 2009. Christopher Bell finished a distant second, with Chase Elliott third, but neither could see the Trackhouse Racing Team driver at the finish line. However, that wasn't the headline, as most of the talk was about Kyle Busch once again, but for all the wrong reasons. And now Rowdy is receiving some serious heat. Mexico City experienced a disaster on lap 7 due to wet circumstances. Kyle Busch spun out heading into turn 1 and collided with several cars. Kyle Larson, AJ Allmendinger, Zane Smith, and Chase Briscoe were all engaged in an early NASCAR Cup Series collision. As rain began to fall on lap 1, NASCAR quickly issued a caution. Even with wet weather tires, Kyle Busch spun out in the braking zone, colliding with other drivers like a bowling ball into pins. Busch and Larson both went under the DVP's supervision in the garage. The teams were attempting to repair their cars and return their drivers to the track in order to salvage some kind of finish. However, both DNF'd in the end. Starting the race on slicks was perhaps not the best choice. However, when the rain began, NASCAR acted immediately and issued a caution. This allowed drivers to come down and put wet weather tires. For those who question, why not simply allow teams to make that decision under green? Well, that is not what you want. There is a 4,000-foot straight leading into turn 1. The backstretch of NASCAR's largest oval track is approximately the same length as the Talladega Superstretch. These cars would have been doing at least 180 miles per hour before reaching the braking zone for the first turn. If the flag had not been given, cars would have sped across to that turn on lap 2, forming a junkyard on the Mexico City track. Despite the caution, teams were not required to use wet tires. Austin Cindric and Chris Buescher both stayed out on slick tires. That didn't go so well for them. Today was a day that I thought Kyle Busch needed to take advantage of. His day was pretty much done before it started. That's a shame for the number 8 squad, because they desperately needed a nice run today for points and a chance to win. Kyle Busch is not throwing a party tonight in Mexico City. That much is for certain. The race had just restarted in damp conditions, so drivers were using wet weather tires. It was raining, which meant difficulty for Busch and his number 8 Chevrolet. Busch lost control of his car entering turn 1, colliding with Justin Haley and collecting Kyle Larson, AJ Allmendinger, and Zane Smith. He accepted blame for the incident. Just in the rain, I went down into turn 11 and got on the brakes pretty hard and everything was fine, explained Busch after the incident. Everything was comfortable, it stopped really good, and I thought, okay, I can be a little bit more aggressive this time. Getting back into 1 and went to the 10 marker. If there is a 10 marker, it's the bridge. And we've been going much past the bridge all day on dries and so wet, I figured it's going to be fine. As soon as I went to the brakes, it was just on ice, and I was sliding, and so about a second and a half or so, I was just trying to figure out which direction to go, and then I was like, I've got to turn this thing around backwards because I'm going to nail some people. So I hate it for all those that were involved in my mishap there, and hate it for Lucas Oil, and of course RCR, ECR, the guys. I mean, the car yesterday in qualifying was really good. It felt like we were going to be really sporty in the dry. I hate that the rain came, and now it's nice and dry, so just have to go fight for more points in another week. Busch's team attempted to repair the car and get it back on the racetrack. They were unable to fix it, bringing their day to an early finish. A DNF isn't what Busch needed. He appeared to be quick coming into the race, starting in P11. With only 10 regular season races remaining, he is 44 points out of the playoffs. Worse, Busch's career-long winless run has reached 73. The last 2 years have not been as rowdy as previous years. He's signed with Richard Childress Racing for the 2026 season, so there's plenty of incentive for both parties to get this back on track. But Rowdy wasn't the only one getting into trouble during the race. Carson Hocevar was once again the focus of attention during and after the race, and for all the wrong reasons once more. Once for harshly criticizing NASCAR for racing in Mexico, and then for spinning Ricky Stenhouse Jr. again. Carson Hocevar appeared to have a number of troubles during the NASCAR Cup Series race in Mexico City over the weekend. During his Twitch Live on Friday night, Hocevar described the encounter as such a shithole. "This is how I put it," Hocevar began. "This whole experience, if the travel was better, if getting here was easier, if you felt safer getting to and from everywhere, if it wasn't such a shithole, if the track limits were a little bit better enforced, if it was going to be a little bit better, or a race and it wasn't so easy, or feel so locked down like you can't leave anywhere. It would be a great experience. It would be an absolute great experience. If you take all those out, it's unbelievable. It's great. Hocevar made the statements before competing in the Cup Series race. However, following those words, a P34 finish on Sunday, and a post-race fight with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Carson Hocevar is most likely ready to depart Mexico City. And it appears that his public relations team was quick to respond, as Carson Hocevar has apologized for statements he made about Mexico on a stream that went viral. He stated that his perception of the country had shifted following Sunday's race in Mexico City. Maybe a kid that had never been out of the country until Thursday should ever give an opinion about what any place is like other than Portage, Michigan, Hocevar wrote. When I answered that question on a stream, I was skeptical about the trip so far and believed everything I read or heard about Mexico City from people who more than likely also had never been here. Now that I've actually left my hotel a couple times and raced here in front of some of the most passionate fans I've ever seen, my opinion has changed. I am embarrassed by my comments, by the race I ran, and I may have to move here to hide out from Ricky, Stenhouse Jr. Anyway. His final quip will undoubtedly get him some laughs from the crowd. Stenhouse berated and threatened Hocevar after the race, citing a previous incident on the track. Joking about it will undoubtedly help to relieve the tension, especially since Stenhouse promised to beat his ass once we got back in the States. In any event, it is evident that Hocevar has a new perspective on Mexico. Count this as another lesson for me in a season I've learned so much, Hocevar wrote in conclusion. Don't believe everything you hear without seeing it yourself. If anyone should give anyone or any place the benefit of the doubt, it's me. I'm sorry, Mexico City. Consider me an ally going forward and an example of getting off Twitch and seeing things with my own two eyes. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Carson Hocevar already had a very public feud. Early in the run, Hocevar spun Stenhouse into the outside wall, resulting in the team's first DNF of the 2025 season. Stenhouse threatened retaliation, but the two drivers worked out their differences through a series of public and private statements during the week. Hocevar even promised to round the edges off, admitting that his aggressive manner occasionally crosses the line. 2 weeks later, the hostility erupted in a huge way as NASCAR took against Mexico City. Hocevar was engaged in many collisions during the race, making it a challenging day for the Spire Motorsports drivers. He also caused the race's final caution, losing control at the final corner and halting his number 77 Chevrolet. Later on, he was running a lap behind Stenhouse as he entered the stadium portion. Stenhouse was on the lead lap, running 23rd, but Hocevar came in a little too hot as he battled his car. He ran into Stenhouse's back, spinning him out yet again. Stenhouse slipped to 26th place, eventually sliding to 27th by the time the checkered flag waved. Stenhouse's displeasure was palpable after the race as he marched over to Hocevar's car and yelled at him through the window. In-car cameras captured the majority of the talk. "I'm gonna beat your ass," Stenhouse declared. "You're a lap down, you got nothing to do, why'd you run right into me?" Hocevar was apologetic and explained that he locked up in the marbles, but Stenhouse quickly shouted back, "I don't give a damn." Stenhouse once again pledged to beat up Hocevar when they returned to the States. Stenhouse was involved in a surprising altercation during the 2024 All-Star race, punching Kyle Busch while waiting for him in the garage. He was penalized $75,000 by NASCAR for the altercation. And at this moment, it's looking like Hocevar might be the next one to catch a fist from Stenhouse Jr. So, what's your take on Busch and Hocevar's race? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.